Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of HCA's Pop Council. This is a show where we talk about the latest in pop culture and in all the geekdom news. I am one of your hosts, Wendy Lee, and joining me, as always, to see if I do it right. Yes, Jami Philbrick. Hey, Jami.
Hey, Wendy, how are you?
I'm doing so great. Happy Monday to you. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us on this lovely Monday. Hey, we're talking so much on today's show. We have a fantastic guest lined up. We're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi moving its premiere date and giving us not one, but two episodes, that Top Gun Maverick trailer, our thoughts on Morbius, the first episode of Moon Knight, all that and more. Jami, you know this is not a proper Pop Council without a third member. So we like to welcome back the outlaw, John Rocha. Hello, John.
Hello, everyone. How are you both? Good to see you.
Good. Hey, Rocha, you have, I was going through your YouTube channel. I know that I'm on one of the shows there, and I'm scrolling through. I was like, man, he's got so much going on. But we can not only find you on your channel, The Outlaw Nation, we can also find you here on HCA, and I don't mean just here on Pop Council. What other shows are you doing here for the HCA channel?
Well, it's been a fun ride over the last few months. It's been really nice to be. We just wrapped up doing the Bel Air after show with me and Nikki Fowler. She is so great. We did the after party show with a bunch of people there, Rick Hong and others. Jana was on the show as well with us on that one. But right now, we're doing We Talk, We Crashed. So our after show on We Crashed, that great show that is on Apple TV now with Jared Leto and Anne Hathaway telling the story of WeWork and Adam and Rebecca Newman on there. And Nikki Fowler joining me on that one, and Griffin Schiller. And Griffin is great. So I've worked with Nikki before. It's so fun to be back in a studio live, working with those two great critics as a part of the Hollywood Critics Association. And we're getting some nice reactions and some nice comments in the chat that is fun to read and getting some good views on the show. So if you're watching We Crashed on Apple TV, or if you haven't started watching it, I want to encourage you to watch it and then watch our after shows. We break that thing down with historical stuff about what actually happened and comparing it to what happened in the show and breaking down what's going on in the show as well. So it's been a blast. So yeah, a lot of good times. And thanks to Scott Menzel for allowing me to be part of those shows and those after shows.
Yeah, absolutely. Great time to be had. I watched a couple of episodes of We Crashed, and then I watched the after show. And you're right. Really, really good discussion. Jami, have you had any experience working at like a WeWork? Because it's, what is it? Like you rent out a space, right?
Yeah.
I've never personally, you have?
I mean, I haven't done it personally, but I have been involved with companies that have. So I've done that. And a lot of times they were when I was traveling. So like I remember meeting at a place in San Francisco and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's really it. You know what's funny is before the show came about, and I would always drive by buildings and you see like the WeWork, right? Yeah. And for me, as a very aesthetic person, I mean, not my life because I try, but it's not there. But I enjoy being a part of someone else's like pre-built aesthetic, and I think WeWork is that. And like as that kind of a person, that sold me into like, oh, I think I wanted like if I ever got to do like a WeWork thing, I would. But then I watched the show and I'm like, wow, it's just so much more than what I thought, which was on a very surface level. So highly recommend the show. I am not caught up completely yet, but if you watch the show and then you're like, I want more, make sure you tune into the after show, We Talk, We Crashed, hosted by this guy right over here, right here on HCA channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Let's go ahead and get into some of the topics. And some entertainment news right off the top here, because we're talking about two actors, longtime actors, who have announced their retirement from the profession. First one, it's a little bit sad. Bruce Willis has announced that he's going to be retiring from acting due to the aphasia diagnosis. Going to our guest first, Rocha, what were your immediate reactions when you first heard this announcement?
I think sadness. I'm an 80s kid. Bruce Willis was very much a part of my life as I began to enjoy TV shows and films. I was a moonlighting guy, definitely. Him and Sybil Shepherd was so great. I remember sitting there as a kid watching that. And then, of course, Die Hard really blowing up. And then right into the 90s, I'm a massive Armageddon fan. I'll defend it till the day I die. But then his Sixth Sense work. And listen, the thing about Bruce Willis is, Yeah, he can be, towards the tail end here before he stopped, he was sliding into that kind of I'm going to be in everything type of approach to acting like Nicolas Cage and Michael Caine used to do and a bunch of other actors do as they're in the latter stages of their career because it's good money. They've got a quote. Directors, producers are willing to meet a quote. They come in and do work for like 2 to 3 days or maybe 5 days tops, and they collect a nice paycheck. And so you can't fault them for that. You got to work. But Bruce was one of those guys that never seemed to lose the shine, even when he was doing that kind of work, because people love it when he dials in. When he cares, he's actually a damn good actor. And to see the progression and the change, and he takes chances. People forget that there are these interesting films that he's decided to do that were kind of out of the mainstream. He did a Vietnam veteran film called In Country in 1989 that no one really talks about. It was a damn good performance. And then you look at him in Death Becomes Her, playing this nebbish guy who is a slave in essence, emotionally to both of these women and their desire to do the things that they're doing. He does some interesting kind of spy stuff, some tense thriller stuff. And then, of course, he does these not superhero, but the action movie stuff and the tentpole pictures, and then does comedies like Whole 10 Yards, where he's really good. So I think he's had an incredible career. And it's sad that this might be the end because people do recover from aphasia. I do want to put that out there.
Oh.
People have recovered from this. It all depends on how he acquired aphasia and then if there's a path back for him to be able to come back and do acting. But hearing some of the reports coming out recently from some directors on sets with him over the last few years, they are now able to come out and speak about something they couldn't speak about before, which is his cognitive decline and that there was an earpiece in his ear. They were feeding him lines. And even towards the tail end, a lot of the scenes were shot with him just sitting down because he couldn't even move around anymore.
Oh my gosh.
So we'll see. I mean, as I said, people do recover from it. I don't know how he got in. They're not releasing those details just yet. And we'll see if down the road we have a triumphant return of Bruce Willis recovering from aphasia. But if not, it's a heartbreaking ending to an incredible career. And I think it'll wash away most of the ill feelings people might have about Bruce and some of the comments he's made in the past, some of his egotistical comments he's made in the past. And even Kevin Smith apologized to him over the weekend, and so did the Razzies. So pretty incredible.
He had a Razzie?
Yeah. He had
his own
category.
He made his own category. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Because of these, like this business model that John was alluding to that he's done for the last 5 or 6 years, which is basically doing direct to DVD films, working maybe 3 days for $3 million. And usually they'll tag a Frank Grillo or a Sean William Scott or Josh Duhamel or someone like that as the actual lead. But Bruce gets the top billing and is usually like the mentor or the villain or something like that. I mean, I have a lot of comments. Bruce Willis is my favorite actor of all time.
Wow.
Just like John, I grew up, or I'll say favorite movie star of all time. Let me put it that way. I grew up, in the 80s and 90s as well. There I go. And I came back.
I was like, wait, hold on. What happened?
What happened? Moonlighting was like my favorite show growing up. Like at 10 years old, I was dressing like David Addison and making little quirks. And I didn't understand a lot of the, sexual innuendo of the show. But, he was cool and funny. And, in the era that John and I grew up, we had Christopher Reeve's Superman. We had Michael Keaton's Batman, but that was it for superhero movies. John McClane was my superhero. And Axel Foley and Martin Riggs and all the sort of action characters that were in films in the 80s and 90s. Murphy agrees. I also want to add about what we were just talking about. John mentioned hold on. I'm going to give Murphy a treat to see if he'll finish my comments. Here, let me finish talking about Uncle Bruce.
Murphy's like, I want to talk about Bruce Willis, please.
Well, Murphy's watched a lot of Bruce Willis movies with me.
Murphy's like, look who's talking. Don't forget about look who's talking.
Right. Well, so, I mean, I have a few more thoughts I want to say here. So, listen, he was so cool. I mean, he was like the Steve McQueen of our generation. He just oozed cool. Watch the David Letterman appearances he made over the years. I think he was on David Letterman's 2 shows like 60 times combined. One of the best harmonica players, I think people forget. He was an amazing, legitimately really good harmonica player. Had an album, Return of Bruno, was actually, an entertaining musician. 4 films he made were nominated for Oscars, maybe even more. But I've got Pulp Fiction, Moonrise Kingdom, Sixth Sense, and 12 Monkeys. Were all nominated in some way or another for Academy Awards. Not just comedy and action, but he could do serious drama, like really, really, obviously one of the best movie stars of our generation, but a really underrated actor as well. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, John, you were talking about this business model, these films, and some of these directors who have come out now and said, yeah, we were having some issues. Murphy, you ready for another treat? Here you go. And I actually had the fortune of talking to Frank Grillo just about a month ago about A Day to Die, which was one of these films that was released last month with Frank and Bruce. And Frank had done 4. This was the 4th movie he'd made with Bruce.
Yeah.
And he mentioned several times in the interview, in fact, to a point, it was a print interview, he mentioned it 3 times. I actually cut one of the times because it seemed too repetitive.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about Bruce, he kept saying, I think this might be it for Bruce. I think this might be the final film. I think he's going to be retiring soon. He's done it all. Now, of course, nothing about anything medical. I don't know that Frank knew about anything medical for sure, but he was on these sets. Maybe he witnessed something. Maybe he knew something. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But I just thought it was really interesting that just, 3 or 4 weeks ago, one of his co-stars was saying, I think he's going to be retiring soon. So maybe the writing was somewhat on the walls. I agree with John. I think he can, I hope he can come back at some point. But what it seems like is the family stepped in here. And I love that it was the daughters, the current wife, and the ex-wife. Everyone got involved and put this out. So my feeling is that he's pretty far along. And from the reports we're getting, it sounds like he's pretty far along with this.
Oh, boy.
But, I hope, it doesn't, it's not as good, but I hope that he gets a governor's award at the Oscars in the next couple of years. He gets some kind of recognition that he deserves for his career and for everything he's done, because he's just an amazing, amazing movie star in our generation. I mean, really incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certain actors that, we kind of watch as kids growing up to, our adult age or today. And Bruce Willis definitely falls into that category with his filmography. It's funny because I wasn't allowed to really watch like Die Hard when I was young. Like my dad let me watch a little bit, and then my mom kind of gave him the side eye of he's showing her this. Granted, I didn't understand English at the time. That's how young I was. I hadn't learned, but there's blood. So she's like, she's not watching this. So, it got turned off. So
she didn't want your first words in English to be
exactly. She's like, she's not learning this way. Okay.
Right.
So it was like years later that I got to watch Die Hard. And I was like, oh, I get why my mom didn't want me to see this. But I also want to mention, and I know this is kind of not his, wasn't nominated for an Oscar, but I thoroughly enjoyed. It's one of my favorite films till today, and that's The Fifth Element. I loved him in that movie. I loved him so much in that movie because that's a man who can do drama, comedy, and action all in one film.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because, I had been doing this work that we do for maybe 4, 5, 6 years. And then the last Die Hard came out, and I was such a huge fan of Bruce. And let's be honest, I had heard not great things, that he wasn't great in interviews, that he was tough, and it could not be a great interview. So I sort of tried to stay away from him for the first few years of my career, because I didn't want to have that like disappointment of meeting my hero. But then Die Hard, the 5th Die Hard came, and I was like, oh, I gotta cover this. And I ended up having an interview with him. And then a few weeks later, he remembered me when he was nominated for Moonrise Kingdom and was on the Independent Spirits red carpet. Didn't talk to anyone, but came over and talked to me. Gave me like 2 minutes and was super nice. And after that, I to a point where other people on the red carpet was like, "Do you know him? Why
you should be like, we go way back, Bruce and I."
Well, at that point, I was like, "That's it. I'm done. I don't ever need to interview Bruce again. I don't want to push it. I don't want to go. You know what I mean? I've had 2 amazing experiences with him within a couple of weeks. I'm good. I got my Bruce Willis fix." So
I
Yeah.
love that you have those memories.
Good interaction. I can say it was always nice to me.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
That's awesome.
So obviously, we here wish him and his family all the best as he continues with this diagnosis. And since we're kind of on the retiring news here, another piece of news about another actor who has done a lot, throughout his career, who announced his probable. It's not like a confirmed thing, but he did talk about it, like it's gonna happen, and that is Jim Carrey, which is kind of surprising yet not surprising at the same time. But he was quoted in an interview saying, I've done enough and I have enough, and he just wants to live his spiritual life. And just kind of coming off from seeing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 the other day, which, by the way, if you love the first one, you're going to really like the second one. His performance as Robotnik really, it made my heart feel full because I felt like he really embraced that character. And Jim Carrey is one of the few actors that can be almost like a live cartoon in a live action film. His face is so animated. The way he moves, physicality and everything is so animated. So it always sucks a little bit when you hear they say, yeah, I'm done, I'm gonna retire, and I'm like, no more Jim Carrey films ever. So, but he did mention that if the right script came along, if it's like written in gold ink or something like that, and it speaks to him, his words not mine, then he can, he maybe consider coming out from retirement to do. So you guys' thoughts on the retirement of Jim Carrey?
Yeah. I mean, what can you say? I mean, the guy, he took 1 year and made an entire career out of it. Those 3 movies coming out in that 1 year pretty much made Jim Carrey who Jim Carrey is. And, of course, In Living Color and all of that kind of laid the groundwork, but we got to see what he can do. And then making that turn into drama, really pushing himself with Truman Show, with The Majestic. And of course, the cherry on top of all that is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. What an incredible performance that should have been honored with a nomination, arguably could have been nominated with a actual Oscar for him, because it was such an incredible performance by him from top to bottom. And then, he kind of fell apart from there for a little bit, choosing some bad projects. He wasn't really in the public's favor for movies. We didn't see him do so well, but every once in a while, Mr. Popper's Penguins, these other things would pop up. And I think over the last few years, we've kind of started to reappreciate Jim Carrey. And I'll tell you mentioned the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. Seeing him as Mr. Robotnik in that first Sonic the Hedgehog movie was such a joy for those of us who remember what he could do when he really wanted to have some fun with comedy in the 1990s. Yes. And he brought that element to Robotnik, and he seemed to really be enjoying himself. And I think we can read that as fans and as viewers through the screen. We can sense when an actor is enjoying themselves in a role, and certainly felt like this is something that he had maybe been waiting for, to come back to this kind of vibe. But he's a guy who's incredibly intelligent. He's got a lot of things to say, and he's also very self-aware. And he's always spoken about his vulnerabilities and, the things he's negotiated to become famous and what it cost him, and, that writing that check to himself. There's all kinds of stories here. So the fact that he's, being kind of circumspect about where he's at now, and does he want to be on a set, or does he want to be painting? Does he want to be memorizing lines, or does he want to go be inspired by something he sees in the world, something beautiful in nature, something beautiful in human, or something ugly in human beings? We've certainly seen him do paintings showing some of the uglier sides of characteristics of human beings as well, certain famous human beings. So he's inspired by this. And, Eddie is doing kind of the same thing himself. Eddie Murphy, he hasn't retired. Oh, yeah. He kind of, wanted to focus on his family for a very long time and was doing those family movies. So I think this is happening in a number of areas in life where people go, you know what? I don't need to make $900 million, $7 billion. Like, I'm good. I'm living a comfortable life. I can relax, spend time with myself, spend time with my friends, be inspired to be creative in a different way. And I can retire. And if something comes along, great. But until then, I'm not going to do the Hollywood grind, which can really get to you. Yeah. And especially as an older actor, I don't care if you're male or female, it can get to you. So although it would be a shame to lose Jim, I think he's left an incredible legacy if he was to retire, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Your thoughts, Jami?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And for me, Man on the Moon, that's the performance as Andy Kaufman.
Oh yeah, great point. Yes.
Yeah, I love. And I actually was an extra in that film in the final in the Comedy Store in the final scene of the movie when he's Tony Clifton. So I actually worked, and I was in the front row. So I actually worked with Jim Carrey in character as Tony Clifton for 3 days because he never broke character on set.
Oh,
he actually spoke to me as Tony Clifton, and it was funny because I interviewed him for the first Sonic in the beginning of 2020, right before.
Yeah, I think so.
And I told him I was in that scene, like when he filmed it, and he gave me a great big hug. He was like, "Thank you for being a part of that. It meant so much to Andy and to me." I was like, "Oh my god."
Oh my gosh.
So this felt to me a little bit like Tarantino. I'm gonna retire. But he's clearly, and anyone who's sort of listened to his recent Howard Stern interviews or read his book or just heard his comments about the Will Smith Chris Rock incident.
Oh yeah,
he's disgusted with Hollywood.
Yeah,
and he has been disgusted with its behavior and the behavior of people within the industry for a long time. He's got more money than God. I mean, he really doesn't need. I mean, he does. And he was an actor at maybe the best period to be an actor.
Yeah,
which was the late '80s and early '90s when you could make $20 million paychecks.
Yep.
And that's not the way it is anymore. You know what I mean? And so why keep doing the grind? I do feel like, and this question was asked by Entertainment Tonight. Was it, or no, Access Hollywood. And it was posed because Dolly Parton is working on a biopic of her life. And I think she had said that she wanted him to play her agent or manager or someone that would have been a character in her life story. And so that's how this, would you be interested in that? Yeah. And that's how he said, I think I may be retiring soon, blah, 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 blah. Right. Maybe if that's, becomes a prestige project and is in the right hands as far as writers and directors go, like maybe that's the type of thing he would do in the future. Like a Tom Parker, the way Tom Hanks is playing Colonel Parker.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Kind of thing, take on. And listen, I don't know the man personally. I think that not ever at least being nominated for Best Actor and winning and certainly winning it, I think that's something he always really, really wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know him. I'm just reading into everything I've read about him and know about him. Like, I think that means something to him. And so I think if he had an opportunity to work with a Tarantino, to work with a Spike Lee, to be in that, a Spielberg, and to do that type of a role, I can't see him passing that opportunity down.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
short of that, I think he doesn't want to do, I think what he's saying is he doesn't want to do the Penguin movies. You know what I mean? Those are the type of movies. And I don't even think Sonic falls into that because it was a financial success and he's having fun in the character. And I think at least critically, his performance has been, in the first one was well received. But I think he doesn't want to do those types of movies that he feels like he, is just sort of chasing money.
Yeah. He doesn't really, like you said, he's got enough. He said it too. He's like, I got enough. And I think people tend to forget too, for actors, like people see the glamorous side of things. They see the red carpet, the magazine spreads, where everything's styled for you. You look cool and you get to go on talk shows. But acting is a full, like you're not clocking 40 hours a week. You're clocking more because there's no one to like hold your hand or like micromanage you and be like, are you memorizing your lines? Are you doing character studies? Are you, whatever? It's, you have to do that. It's very self-motivating and it takes up all the time in the world. And especially if you have, he's a seasoned actor, so it probably comes easy for him. But, there's rewrites on set, happens a lot. And you have to sit there and be like, okay, how do I change this? And he's a comedic actor. So, there's a lot of improv that can go back and forth. And then once the movie wraps and the cameras are turned off, it's not like you're done. You might be called back for an ADR. You have to do interviews after interviews after interviews and premieres. And you're answering the same questions over and over, essentially for like a year when you go on. So like people don't think about it that way. We just kind of, as consumers, we take what we see. And we're like, it's so easy. Acting, I was like, acting is not easy. It is exhausting. All three of us here can tell you this because we've all.
And he's also, he did a couple of TV shows, right? I think he's done at least one.
The Lemony Snicket Oh no, that was
that was a movie. But he produced the show about the Comedy Store,
right?
And he appeared in a show that Michel Gondry directed,
right?
And I wonder, and I wonder if that move wasn't like a little bit of like, well, the movie grind, let me try TV.
Yeah.
But those are one camera shows. Like if you're doing a sitcom, that's the easiest job in Hollywood.
Right.
But if you're doing, but if you're doing a one camera, dramatic, dramedy, like those two shows were for Showtime, that's as difficult as making a movie. That's making a movie every week.
Yeah.
And so he may have even had that experience and been like, whoa, I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
So if they are going to retire, you guys go and watch their movies, go see Sonic, go stream Bruce Willis movies, and let's just remember these actors and celebrate the work that they've done.
For sure.
Yep.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to a topic that is set in the galaxy far, far away. We know that the next upcoming Disney Plus Star Wars show is Obi-Wan Kenobi. We're all waiting for this. We get to see Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And originally, this show was going to premiere on Wednesday, May 5th, which was going to coincide with Ms. Marvel. So that would make 2 Disney Plus shows premiering at the same time, which I have thoughts about that, but they have, which we're going to get into, but they actually announced that for Obi-Wan, they're actually pushing back the premiere by 2 days. So instead of Wednesday, the 25th, it is now going to premiere on Friday, May 27th, which also lines up with Star Wars Celebration. And good news with fans, yes, we're waiting 2 more days, but we get 2 episodes. I think originally, if it was going to premiere on that Wednesday, it would have premiered with just 1 episode. So like, why not get 2? I'm assuming these are 40-minute plus episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get almost 2 hours of Ewan McGregor trekking through sand. So I'm here for it. What are you guys' thoughts on Disney Plus and Lucasfilm moving the premiere date back a couple days? Jami.
Well, yeah, I mean, this has happened before. We've seen some shifting with the Disney Plus shows, and I kind of feel like we're going to continue to see this, as we move on, because there might be a Friday when Disney has a film in theaters, and don't want the show that's premiering on that Friday to interfere with people going to the theater and seeing their Disney movie. So I think that I don't think this is a big deal. I think we're going to continue to see sort of these shiftings as we move forward through the years. And there's, more Disney Plus, Marvel, and, Star Wars shows. And then, of course, Marvel and Star Wars movies that are opening.
Yeah.
So I think we're always going to sort of see it either on a Wednesday or a Friday, one of these shows. And that's, and then if they shift dates, it's not a big deal. And again, 2 days and you get an extra episode, and then it coincides with the, anniversry. So
that's true. Rocha, your thoughts?
It's fascinating because, I mean, we mentioned Bruce Willis earlier, and I feel like when I heard this story initially, right, that both Ms. Marvel and Obi-Wan Kenobi series were going to debut on the same night, I didn't understand why they would do that. First of all, I saw Wendy Lee's reaction when she saw that, and she was like, how am I going to record 2 reaction videos on the same night? I'm going to die every Tuesday. I understood that situation in its own way, but also this idea is, why would you make people choose between your 2 biggest IPs under your own umbrella on the same night? It doesn't make sense on so many levels. And listen, I'm on a text thread with a couple of my friends who are former executives or current executives at the studios. And I said to them, this makes sense, but I was surprised that this idea that both of these shows were debuting on the same night wasn't discussed ahead of time. And one of my executive friends texted back and said, your constant surprise that the near total lack of organization within the studio system is always so refreshing. And I said, I feel like Bruce Willis in Armageddon when he's talking to Billy Bob Thornton about NASA, when he says, I mean, you're NASA, for crying out loud. You put a man on the moon. You're geniuses. You're the guys that are thinking shit up. And that's what I feel about the studios. Y'all are the ones thinking shit up. How are you not figuring out that this is a dumb thing to do? but maybe they wanted to save it to until the celebration was officially announced, and now they can move it, and the tickets were back on sale, and now they're going to drop them, drop these 2 episodes on Friday night. People are going to go crazy watching these 2 episodes, and who knows if they'll be able to watch them at Celebration with an intro by Ewan McGregor.
Probably, yes.
Incredible. So, the fact that they did it that way, I think is great for the Star Wars brand, and it works out. But I wonder what would have happened if they didn't have a Celebration to fall back on, and which IP they would have chosen to be their Wednesday night IP, and which IP is their Friday night IP. So just a very interesting thing that happens here now. And does now Kenobi slide back to Wednesday after the Friday night debut? Because if it does, you're still back to making people choose between the 2 on the same night. So I hope that doesn't happen with Kenobi. It stays on Friday nights and has its own place to be so people can enjoy it, So just interesting decisions all around,
I assume it would stay on Fridays.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I am glad you guys brought that up, and I swear I saw it on StarWars.com because I was researching this. But with the show premiering on Friday, 2 episodes, according to StarWars.com, like literally a day ago, 24 hours ago, I read this somewhere. Now I can't find the article. The subsequent episodes will return on Wednesday.
Yeah.
As of now, that could change.
Wow.
That they are, obviously.
So the move was only so that the premieres don't collide, but they don't care about the rest of the series colliding.
So the premiere coincides, in my opinion, I think, is they want the premiere to coincide with Star Wars Celebration so they can show it to the fans, like as an exclusive thing that they can offer at Star Wars Celebration. And then they can.
It was
that's
less
what I think.
You think it was less about worrying about having the 2 shows collide. It was more about trying to move it to fit into Star Wars Day.
Because a long time ago, they made that announcement. All new Disney Plus shows will premiere on Wednesdays. And I said, well, when they said it, I was like, but why though? This is literally your whole program. This is your Disney's streaming platform. And what if you had a cool like Star Wars Fridays, Marvel Wednesdays, something original, High School Musical, the musical, the series Tuesdays. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Like there's no other. Why are you competing with yourself?
Yeah, that's so weird. It's just.
And I'm not just saying this because I'm going to die on Wednesday nights when I record 3 videos back to back. I'm not just saying that, but it is. Not everybody has the time to sit through. Let me watch Miss Marvel. Yeah. Okay, now I got to watch Kenobi, and that's if you have kids running around, like you don't have 2 hours total to sit through 2 episodes of the show. And on top of that, people you are going to make them choose because spoilers pop up on the internet so quickly. So it's what you stay off the internet. Sure, you can do that, but what if your job is to be on the internet? Then you can't win. So I am hoping. Really, really hoping, praying to the Star Wars gods, please, Yoda, hear me, that they keep Kenobi on a Friday because the overlap with more and more shows coming to Disney Plus, and I love that they're giving us so much content. I embrace it. We gotta do something about this overlapping schedule. I don't like it. That's my thoughts. But I'm very happy that we're getting 2 episodes on the premiere and that it's on a Friday.
I don't know the math, but is Moon Knight done by the time those 2 premiere?
Yes.
Yeah.
They only have they have only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Right.
So they'll be done way before Obi-Wan starts, and then I think there is a 1-2 episode crossovers or overlaps for 2 weeks for Miss Marvel. 3, sorry.
You mean Miss Marvel with Star Wars?
With Kenobi, yeah. There's gonna be at least 3, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll update you guys. So make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can see Wendy loses her mind with the editing. All right, let's go ahead and move on to this other piece of news. A new trailer dropped. The official trailer has dropped for Top Gun Maverick. You guys, I feel like we've been waiting for freaking ever for this trailer to come out because of the pandemic. We have seen many movies pushed back, production halted. And I remember in an interview with Tom Cruise, he said that he agreed to do this film. But he said, please make sure that there's a minimal amount of CGI. do what you need, but he didn't want it to be a CGI fest, which sounds like a Tom Cruise kind of thing. He really enjoys the practical effects. He likes to do his own stunts. So we're going to get into that a little bit, but here's a shot of him on his motorcycle as well as in the air. It's almost like he never left the Top Gun world. So Rocha, going to you, what were your thoughts on this Top Gun trailer?
Well, listen, you can talk about great films of the 1980s and classic films of the 1980s, and you can argue aesthetics and all of technical expertise. And of course, Top Gun's not going to make that list. But favorite films of the 80s, it's probably number one in the Outlaw household. I'll tell you that right now. It is my absolute favorite one. Whenever I'm down, whenever I've got something going on, or I need some time to process stuff, I will put Top Gun on. There's something about that film that just touches me, and in the relationship between him and Anthony Edwards, in what Tom Cruise is going through, this idea of being cocky and swaggering, how you can get knocked off your perch, and how you climb back on is really what matters in life. And that's such a great story. And I know some people denigrate it as a, kind of like, a military aggrandizement film or a jock film. It's not. It's dudes, and they're figuring things out, and life can suck sometimes. How do you put it back together? And so I love that about Top Gun. This has always been one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character that Tom Cruise has ever done. So when this was announced, and Wendy's right, when this was announced, I was still at Collider. That's how this trailer was out. And I've been gone from Collider for quite some time. Mark Riley and I did the first trailer reaction with our aviator glasses on way back when. That's how long we waited. I mean, Tom Cruise has gotten closer to 60 waiting for this damn film to come out. And here it is finally coming out, and I'm very excited. And I heard from some people who've gotten a chance to see it up in LA that it is actually damn good. And so that makes me even happier, because we've seen films come back after all this time and sequels, and they're just like, ugh, like we just talked about Jim Carrey, that Dumb and Dumber sequel was horrific. So like you were worried that don't go back into this world unless you get it right, because people who revere Top Gun, they love Top Gun. So you don't want to mess with it. And so that makes me very happy. In this last trailer, we got a little bit more of the story. The drama here between him and Rooster, Goose's son, is going to be out there. And I'm wondering what Meg Ryan's role in this is. Did she die from sadness of having lost Goose? Is that why Rooster has this embitterness towards Maverick? His mom wasn't there to kind of guide him out of the depression, or is she still alive? And that Rooster's just kind of held on to this in a stubborn way, his anger towards Maverick, because Maverick took away his father. I don't know. There's so much to play with here, and they've got elements of the bar stuff from the first Top Gun, so certainly you're feeling that vibe. But some of the action sequences in the sky just blew me away from the look and the overall construction of those scenes. It was phenomenal. And having John Hamm, who now is just either comedy or the bad guy, is great to have him in the film. And I'm curious to see what Ed Harris's role is going to be in all of this. And I love that he's only raised one rank since we last saw him to captain. So it's just perfect Maverick Pete Mitchell stuff. So yeah, I'm so ready for this. And I keep bothering the publicist here in San Diego and go like, when's the screening? It's
coming out in May, right? We're getting in like a month.
Yeah. That's why I need the screening now. That's what I'm saying.
Jami, your thoughts on the trailer?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do we have any reason to believe Meg Ryan will be in the movie? Like, there's no.
I don't know. They have not.
I don't think she's listed in the credits, but IMDb is not always.
Yeah, but they didn't announce Brigitte Nielsen for Creed 2 when she showed up. So I wonder.
Well, that's true.
It's possible, right? And you would think, especially since Miles Teller is Rooster, and it's interesting. You're talking about how long this has been going on. I think in like 2018, I was at some red carpet, and I happened to interview Tim Robbins.
Oh yeah.
This is already in production. And so I said, "Oh, well, are you returning for Top Gun 2?" And he looked at me like, "Why would you ask me that? I'm Oscar-winning actor Tim Robbins." Like, it really was a kind of like go screw yourself look. Like, no. And I was like, "Oh, is that something you want to do?" Like, I was trying to follow up, like get him to say something, and he's just like, "No." It was really weird. So we know Tim Robbins. I can confirm Tim Robbins will not be returning as Nolan in Top Gun 2. Meg Ryan, we don't know yet.
TBD on Meg Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, and 2019 Comic-Con was they were there. Tom was
Yeah,
there. So that's
right.
how long this thing's been going on.
Right.
Wow.
And it's interesting because, and you know, we can talk about like Tom Cruise's career and where he is at this point. But I mean, he's basically at a point where he could only make Mission Impossible movies. He tried doing The Mummy. He tried, you know, even when he did that Doug Liman airplane movie that I thought was actually fairly good about drugs.
American Made. Yeah.
No one went to see that. No one goes to see anything.
Okay.
No, it's very good, but no one went to see it.
Yeah.
And so my point is, he can't sell tickets anymore unless he's Ethan Hunt. That's sort of what had happened. He even tried to launch a franchise with Jack Reacher. The first one did okay. The second one was a bomb. Yeah. So this is his last chance of getting a second franchise going again. And he clearly, you know, hesitated from returning to Maverick for what, 30 years, right? So I don't want to say it's a desperate move, but in a sense, it's going to be interesting to see if, and this is how we're going to figure out, will audiences accept Tom Cruise again as Maverick Mitchell, or is he only Ethan Hunt to them from now on? Yeah. And I have a feeling that if it's as good as we're hearing that it is, that John has said from reports, that it's going to work, it's going to be a hit, and he'll have 2 franchises. That's my guess. But, you know, I mean, you never know. You know, there were thoughts that The Mummy was going to be the next franchise for him. Or Reacher. So I think the verdict is still out, but I feel like it's looking good based on what I'm seeing. I really like this director. He's the guy, he did Oblivion, right? Which I like. Which is another really good Tom Cruise movie that didn't launch a franchise and therefore is unsuccessful in the eyes of Hollywood. So
how sad,
right, John? Am I
right? Oh no, exactly.
So I feel like this is headed in the right direction. Love seeing Val Kilmer.
Yes.
Even a photo of him. I hesitate. After seeing the documentary, I'm not sure how much actual acting he could be doing in the movie, and how they explain his illness as the character if they have to, combine the two. And obviously, I don't know if you guys heard, and this was a couple of years ago now, but why am I blanking on the name? The actress who played the love interest in the first.
Kelly McGillis. Yeah.
Kelly McGillis was asked about not. Do you know where I'm going, John? And her comment was basically like, well, when you have an actor who looks like he hasn't aged in 20, I've aged like a normal woman,
like a normal human being.
A normal human being, yeah. He hasn't, so you have to cast an actress who's like 40.
But Jennifer Connelly. Wait,
it's going to be interesting to see Jennifer Connelly, what type of role she has.
She doesn't age either.
Yeah, Connelly is 51 years old. So I mean, I get.
Oh, okay. So I thought she was closer to like 47.
No,
exactly. She doesn't age.
She's an 80s actress as well. Labyrinth.
That's true. So it works for both of them. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see that and to see. And also, Miles Teller is not an actor that I think he was great in Whiplash, but he's not an actor that I gravitate to, but he looks like he could be a really good rooster.
He looks like he could be really when good. I straight up forgot for a second that it was Miles Teller, and my heart skipped a beat because how much he resembled Bruce with the stash. I was like, wait, whoa.
By the way, and where his career was at this point, he's lucky to get a Top Gun 2, and if this is a huge hit, this will save his career. And really, because I don't think Miles Teller was going anywhere before Top Gun 2.
Agreed with that. So I'm looking forward to it. I think a lot of the trailer, the footage, especially of them flying the Super Hornet in the air, looks really fantastic. I got to learn a lot through the comment section on YouTube. Because, so Cruise likes to do his own stunts. We know that he can pilot many aircrafts. He piloted the helicopter in one of the Mission Impossibles. He's hung outside of an airplane. He's done all the things. So I was thinking, not really like living in reality when I was speaking about this. And I was like, I'm sure they let him up in the air with that, they let him pilot a super expensive military highly classified aircraft. They're like, no. So he was in the aircraft. Did he pilot it? Absolutely not. No one piloted it. With the G's and everything too. Like even if you are an experienced fighter, like a pilot, the Super Hornet's a different. I've learned through the YouTube comments. So I appreciate all the notes because they weren't mean. They were just kind of like, just FYI,
Yeah.
Love that you think that Cruise was able to do this, but the Navy said no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But he was at least up in the air to experience that. Yeah. And I think that's cool. I don't know if I could. They offer me the opportunity. Do you want to go do it? I'd be like, I don't know, man. Am I going to be okay when I come back on the just throw up everywhere because I couldn't handle the G's.
Yeah, I think Kilmer was the only one I think who didn't throw up, and everyone else kind of threw up when they were doing the training back in the 1980s. If you watch that, because they released a 3D version and a 4K version of Top Gun, which I own both, and there's they always added a little bit of extra documentary, and that big long documentary they had on there was really great to watch, to see the young kids and see when they were young and see some of that footage, which of course some of it ended up in Val as well, seeing their footage of when they were young. It was great to see. And if I can have 30 seconds to say something real quick, I've seen some of the critics in our sphere be upset about a Top Gun 2, saying, why do we need it? Why do we need it? If we give you 10 Lord of the Rings movies, we get a Top Gun sequel, okay? You nerds, and I'm a nerd too. I got beat up for loving nerdy shit when I was in middle school and elementary school and high school. I am one of you, but I also enjoyed military stuff and also enjoyed action movies. So if you get to have your Lord of the Rings movies and your 3,500 Marvel characters, I get a damn Top Gun sequel, okay? So let me have it. Stop poo-pooing on it and let it exist. And if it does well, I hope you do a show on your channel eating your words about how you predicted that no one was going to go see this and no one wants it. A lot of us want it. Get out of your bubble and find other human beings who don't think the way you think. I just wanted to put that out there. I love nerds.
And John, I would rebut to that. If it's good, everyone's going to like it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if it's good, it's good. You know, if it's really good, it's really good. If it's not, then, you know. Right. So it really comes down to, is the movie any good or not? Yeah. I don't care what the genre is, what the story, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a horror guy, but I recognize that The Conjuring is good filmmaking.
Yes, agreed.
It's not a movie I'd watch again because it's not my thing. But I recognize that it's really well done. And so I think, you know, if it's good, it's good.
It's like me watching Hereditary. I'm like, I know it's good, but I can't.
I can't. But it's really well done.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. We will update you guys if we get to all get into a press screening for Top Gun Maverick, because I'm very excited to see it. The trailer looks so freaking good. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next couple of topics. We got a little bit of time left to talk about the following topics. Let's talk really quickly about The Crow and the reboot. They've cast Bill Skarsgard in the lead role. So kind of following up what John was saying about some people feeling that there wasn't a need for a Top Gun 2, many people feel that we don't really need a reboot to The Crow. This film is, I don't even know how many years old. I have the very first
94 maybe.
94,
oh my gosh.
94, I think.
Yep, 94, you're right.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, really, really liking it, and then I had to have it at home, so, purchased all the stuff. And ironically, did not bring it with me from Florida. I don't know what.
Great Stone Temple Pilots song, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole soundtrack was fucking
Soundtrack was great.
Yeah.
So now it's looking like they are indeed rebooting it. I feel like this project has been talked about for years, and there's, as most movies, creative things happen, production things happen, but finally we've gotten some news, and Bill Skarsgard is going to be the lead in this film. And I know a lot of people say Brandon Lee is irreplaceable, and he is. He is irreplaceable. And Johnny, you and I talked about this on the show, and at first I was feeling a certain way about him, and it's not to say that I felt Bill Skarsgard wasn't the right type of actor. I think he's a really, really good actor. And I know we've seen him a lot of makeup as far as Pennywise goes, and here we go again with the makeup. I kind of been having insomnia lately, so I just, read things at night to try to fall asleep. And I've just been thinking about Bill Skarsgård in the role. And the more I thought about it, the more I become more excited about actually seeing him in a role like this. Because I don't think we've quite seen him in something like this before. And it's not just about performing under a bunch of makeup. It's about capturing the essence of this character and telling the story. And I really do think that he is the right actor. He's the right choice. So that's where the opinion shift has shifted since literally 2 days ago. Rocha when you and I talked about it.
Yeah. Look, as Jami just said, if it's a good movie, then great. I'm all for it. If you make it work, that's great. Do I enjoy the fact that they replaced an Asian guy with a white guy? No, I don't like that. And it's the same character name. It's Eric Draven. So I don't 100% like that, but people loved Skarsgård and what he did for it as Pennywise. So there's a curiosity factor. And listen, him and Doug Jones are in the same conversation, right? Guys who really do well playing these characters, but they rarely get to be leads. Right. So this idea that Bill is now in essence going to be the lead of this film is kind of an interesting decision, and we'll see what acting talent he brings as the lead. And is he going to be able to put butts in seats? Will people be excited to see this version of it? So, and Gareth Davis, I think, is directing. Is that correct on that one? I think so. Directing it. So, can be curious if those two combine to make a good Crow film. Because remember, Momoa had this on his resume for about 7 years. And now finally,
I'm sorry. It's Rupert Sanders.
Oh, sure, Rupert Sanders. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. But yeah. So an interesting decision to have those two kind of coming together to do this, and we'll see if it works. But I want it to work because I love The Crow and I enjoyed that original and as the soundtrack, but also just the and in the comics as well. It's just a very interesting character. So yeah.
Yeah,
I want to. Go ahead, Jami.
Go ahead, Wendy.
No. I was just gonna follow up with the question, but you go first.
Yeah, I mean, Momoa was attached to it for a while. I mean, it's been around forever. I believe Edgar Ramirez, remember when he was big? Yes. He was attached to it. I want to say even Henry Cavill kind of coming up at the beginning with Superman, 2012, 11, something like that, like was maybe talked about. And then when you were saying, like, does this need to be made? Well, no, none of these movies need to be made. But yes, it needs to be remade because it's a popular IP. It's a known IP. And, we don't make original movies anymore. We only remake movies from popular IPs. So at some point, if this trend was going to keep up, this movie was going to get remade.
Yeah.
And I agree. I hadn't even thought about that aspect of the character, Brandon Lee. You're absolutely right, John, that, is not great that they chose to go that direction. As Bill Skarsgård, though, it's an interesting, he's an actor who's sort of up and coming. We haven't seen him have a lead role like this.
Right.
Physically, I think he's the right build and all that for the character. So, I'm happy for him. I love the first one. I don't know that they can make, I think they can't just make a remake of it. They really need to dig into the mythology from the source material, come up with something new and sort of bigger epic scope. We'll see.
Yeah,
who knows? But it was going to get made. So whether it should or shouldn't doesn't matter. It was going to get made eventually. So yeah.
I think my only I'm going to be very cautiously optimistic about this because the director Rupert Sanders is best known for movies like Snow White and the Huntsman, and Ghost in the Shell, 2 movies that I didn't really enjoy that much. So I don't really want to see those aesthetics carry over to The Crow. I want something that looks really, really different from those 2 films. So that's kind of my only thing about it as of now is it's not
a
sure
director, and that's not what you want with something like this. You want an auteur. You want someone, you want,
it's The Crow. It's I need them to dig into the comic.
You don't want the guy that is safe for the studio to hire.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I want you to take risk, and I want you to tell this dark and gritty story about The Crow. And when you have a good actor like Bill Skarsgård, I hope you use him to his full potential.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got to say on that. And I know we're short on time, so we're going to dive into it really quickly. Let's talk about Morbius. We all had a chance to see it. It is out in theaters now. It is sitting at I think last night when I checked, 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Early reviews prior to us seeing the film, the early reviews was not kind to the film. It was even less kind to the end credit scene. So imagine my expectation of this film, where I was pretty excited because I straight up liked the trailers. And then so I went into this film very, very okay, we're just going to strap in for the ride and let's just see what the story tell. And honestly, I was surprised at the awful early reviews that this film got. Is it the best movie comic book movie? No. Is it the worst? Absolutely not. I still found it. I was still entertained. Sure, a lot of the stuff was a little predictable, a little formulaic. The CGI at times was iffy and spotty, but nonetheless, it was not, to me, terrible. I enjoyed Jared Leto's take. I enjoyed Matt Smith a lot, and overall, I thought it was fine. It was okay.
Yeah.
You guys' thoughts on Morbius, Jami?
Yeah, I also had very, 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 very low expectations going in to see it, and didn't hate it. I didn't think it was good, but I didn't think it was terrible, terrible, terrible. I liked Jared Leto's performance.
Yeah.
I liked the visual effects with the vampirism. I thought that was very interesting. The script is not good. It falls apart in a lot of places. I thought the editing and pacing and tone were really horrible.
Yeah.
Like that was maybe the worst thing about it. It's very much set in the Venom universe. And I think shares DNA with Venom beyond just the universe. I think it's very much, you know what I mean? I think the comments we had about Venom was like, it feels like a 90s movie, and so does Morbius. It feels like a 90s comic book movie made by people that don't like comic books. That doesn't mean it's a terrible movie. It's just, it's not great. But there are things I liked Matt Smith's performance, and I liked the relationship between those characters. Now, I read something differently in the performances. I read that those two characters could have been former lovers. And I thought that would have been much more interesting if they really dug into that and explored that more. It would have made Matt's character's actions heavier and have more weight. And I don't know if that was supposed to be in the subtext, that maybe the actors put in the subtext, but I really felt it was there, but like not there enough. Like they didn't explore it, and that would have been really interesting in a movie like this. Like I felt Matt Smith, that's why he was jealous of the fiance.
Not because he wanted her to. Oh, right, okay. I like that.
Morbius. And it felt like it was there, but like they just went up to the line and wouldn't, you know what I mean? They just didn't grab it. And I wish they had. And then the end credit scene is garbage. I mean, it's not the worst end credit scene I've ever seen, actually.
Right.
There are other end credit scenes. I don't like the sort of jokey joke end credit scenes, or the sort of like just that don't really add anything. This is clearly adding something, but I'm not sure I like what, you know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially with, and I'm being careful not to spoil, but like with what was set up in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right.
And listen, it's not, we saw a scene in the first trailer of Michael Keaton with Morbius.
Yeah.
That scene is not in the final cut. I think you probably will both agree with me. They went back and reshot the end credit scenes after the movie was released after Spider-Man.
Probably.
Because originally it was going to be released before Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so once they knew they were releasing after, because you can even see the purple sky thing doesn't look as good as it did in No Way Home. So I think that whole thing was just added later. Does it make a lot of sense? Not really.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Michael Keaton's now over in the Sony playbox instead of the Marvel playbox. That's all you really need to know. And I'm happy to have Michael Keaton over there for whatever they plan to do next. But it's coming off of No Way Home, which I know is sort of a joint production between Sony and Disney. Seeing the pure Sony production, it does leave something to be desired for sure, but not as terrible as a 17.
Right? Yeah, not as
but certainly not above 50%.
I think the worst thing that could have happened for these Sony Spider-Verse movies was for Venom to do really well at 90 minutes. Because now I think they have gone back, and because I hope a book comes out 10 years from now, interviewing Fleischer, interviewing Andy Serkis, interviewing Espinosa, talking about how they had shot 2 hour, 15 minute, 2 hour, 20 minute superhero movies that had much more depth to them, much more of an exploration of the relationships of the characters, much more of everything that was going on here between these people in the movies, because these 90-minute hack jobs that we get are just such a disservice to the characters, to the actors, to the directors, to everybody involved in the production. And that's the problem. I didn't like those two. I actually abhor those two Venom movies because I love Venom and I think they did him dirty in both of those movies. The editing is just horrific in both of those movies. You don't care for Eddie. You don't care for the connection. You don't care. Him, Michelle Williams. Two phenomenal actors are being wasted in terrible stories that don't allow them to show any kind of depth. Now you get to Morbius. And I thought Morbius is at least as good as some of these people crow about Venom being or Venom Carnage being. And I didn't understand the relish, the maniacal glee that some of these critics had in tearing apart Morbius in the way they did, as if Venom was somehow wasn't the same thing. I think there's a longer movie here, and Jami hits the nail on the head. I agree. I thought this relationship was in the past a homosexual relationship between these two. And remember, we just jumped from them being kids to boom, they're already adults.
There's no middle.
There's nothing in the middle. And I think you're right, Jami. The way he was reacting wasn't like, I want her to be mine. It was more like, why are you with her? We had something. Why are you walking away from it? And remember, in Interview with the Vampire, there is those homosexual overtones between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise in that movie. So why wouldn't that be an aspect of this possibly to explore in a vampire film? And the fact that he is angry that he doesn't get to do what Morbius does. And so he breaks which we never see. I don't know how he gets access to it, but he gets access to it and puts it because he wants to be with him forever now. They can go and be together forever. Right. And that is a jilted lover who wants the person back. And look, now it's you and me. Now you don't have to be with humans. We can eat all the humans we want. We are now together in this relationship. Yeah. And that would have been a very nice wrinkle, especially because people were crowing about Venom Carnage, saying how it was essentially validating the LGBTQ plus existence, which I don't know. That's a stretch, but whatever. But here you could have really gone and made it a very obvious part of the movie, and they didn't. So this movie was edited to crap, unfortunately, but I do agree that the Jared Leto performance is good here. The Matt Smith performance is equally good. And I just think there are some critics who hate Jared Leto and will not respect anything he does anymore. And it's a personal animus. And it's frustrating to read that in the reviews because he sent a dead rat or some black flowers. Stuff, yeah. And people are just like, no, I'm never going to like him no matter what. And it's like, well, then you're not a critic. You're not a critic. You got to assess.
He's a brilliant actor. He gave great performance. I really enjoyed his performance in House of Gucci. I mean, and he was good in Blade Runner. And
don't forget the little things. All the little things.
Little things as well. Yeah. And I just want to, that's a funny story. If you know that, is that Denzel said, none of that shit on my movie, buddy. You're not doing that stuff with me. Like, and he respected, because it's Denzel.
Well, it's Denzel.
I just want to add to the point that John was making about the directors of these Sony Spider-Man movies. They're not hiring good directors. They're hiring hack studio journeyman directors, Ruben Fleischer, with the exception of Andy Serkis. But honestly, Andy hasn't really shown us as a director that he's much beyond, I mean, I think they really screwed with his Venom. I would have loved to have seen what he really would have done with his Venom.
There's a great film, that Venom film. Yes.
Well, there's your book, John. Yeah, we said someone's got to write a book about this. I nominated The Outlaw.
Start today.
The Sony chapter of the Marvel story. But
Espinosa,
they're not hiring Taika Waititi to direct it. You know what I mean? They're not hiring the Russo brothers, up and coming good directors. They're hiring people that have directors that have a track record of doing whatever the studio tells them to
do. Yeah. But I mean, I would say Life is a good movie from Espinosa. I liked.
I don't disagree. Safe House. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
So you can say he's, and I totally respect because he doesn't have a full name yet, but he's delivered good movies in the past. So
that's true.
At some point you have to go.
Fair to put him in with Fleischer.
That is the issue.
That's true. Not fair to throw him in with Fleischer.
Yeah, it was just edited down too much for me. I was like, why are we jumping from this? And this is why we don't feel connected to these characters that we want to feel for. 1000%. It's because we stripped it down to maybe fit into this like hour 44 or something runtime for no reason. Like I'm okay with a good story at over 2 hours if you're telling me a good story and I feel for these characters. I want to see more of them. But yeah, I felt the cuts were really abrupt where I was like, but what's happening in between these? And then there's scenes that don't pay off, but then you build these scenes. I'm like, so what happened now with this? So I enjoy talking about this with you guys. You guys let us know in the comment section what you thought of the film Morbius. And with that, with the final topic, because this is in the title, so we should talk about Moon Knight, even though we do have a whole after show right here on the HCA Critics Association channel. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you watch the after show. So we're just going to do like a mini round the horn discussion on the very first episode of Moon Knight. John, I know you are an avid reader of comic books as well as a big fan of the comics of Moon Knight. So what was your expectation going into this first episode? And after seeing the first episode, did it match up to your expectation? And how well did they follow the comics?
My expectation was, let's see what Oscar Isaac does with this. Because I was really glad they cast a Latino to play a white character. It's nice to see a little reverse action going on here. So I was curious to see what Mark Spector we were going to get. And I was really shocked to see that Stephen Grant was going to be the lead of this show. And so this was this could maybe by the end of the season here be one of the most deceptively brilliant moves by Marvel. Because Mark Spector he's a mercenary. He's a James Bond type. He's a ruthless, brutal guy. Says some pretty uncomfortable things at times in the Moon Knight comics as Mark Spector. And as Moon Knight, Stephen Grant is kind of a smaller character in the personalities of Moon Knight in terms of the fact that he doesn't really come and be the center of attention necessarily. So to go this route, I think was a smart way to get people to immediately connect to Oscar Isaac, connect to what he was doing. He's a submissive person in terms of power dynamics in his relationships. He's made fun of all the time by the people in the museum. He's working in the museum in the gift shop. You know, his friend is a gold-plated guy who gets pictures taken by tourists who doesn't say a word to him. His mom never picks up the phone. And so immediately he kind of represents a lot of us in superhero when we're not superheroes, we're regular people, and our lives sometimes can be quite weird, and we can kind of be in a job that we hate, and we have to kind of like work with people who don't treat us well. That's the game of most people in life. So we immediately connect to that character and what he's going through. And then the way they're doing the dissociative identity disorder, I thought worked really well. He's losing days. He does not sure what's happening. He's doing all these things to try to stay awake. All of it works so well. Then by the end, we've got the tease of Layla. And what does that mean? We even see Duchamp on his phone, who is a big character in the Moon Knight universe. And so we see Mark Spector, and we see the back and forth. And so you have to ask yourself, why is this happening now? And as the episodes go on, I really do enjoy the way we're kind of fleshing out both of these aspects of the Moon Knight character here, both of these personalities in Moon Knight, as well as the Moon Knight personality. Really enjoy how much we get. So by the end of the first episode, I was like, this is one of the best episodes of Marvel TV I've ever seen. And now I'm excited to see what more we're going to get.
Yeah. Love that. Jamie, your thoughts on Moon Knight?
Yeah, real quick. I agree. I really loved it. And I loved the idea, and I'm familiar with the character from the source material. Loved the idea of at least initially telling the series from Stephen Grant's point of view.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting way of doing it, because I think the natural way would be to do it from Mark's point of view, based on the source material. So I thought it was great doing that. Oscar gives an amazing performance playing. Every actor that plays a superhero is really playing two characters, right? Because they're playing the alter ego and the hero. Here he's playing two characters and their two alter egos. So he's got at least four so far that we know of. And there are scenes where Oscar is acting with Oscar and you really believe he's two different people. So that's incredible. One of my issues, and Wendy, we've talked about this on the show throughout the year that we've been, doing the podcast and covering the Marvel Disney Plus shows, is that they're even at 6 to 8 episodes. Every series to me feels like it's 1 or 2 episodes too long. Like the second episode of WandaVision was filler for me. It was too close to the first episode. Most people don't know the difference between I Love Lucy and Dick Van Dyke anyways. It's just black and white versus black and white, right? So that didn't work for me. I thought they should have jumped right into Brady Bunch. The first 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier felt like filler. Even the third or fourth episode of, I think the third episode of Loki, where they're just running around on that planet that's about to be destroyed, that seemed like a filler episode to me. This is, and I've seen the first 4, as I'm assuming both of you have. There doesn't seem like any filler in the first 4.
And with
with only 6 episodes, I can't imagine episode 5 is filler. So, because usually the penultimate episode and the final are like, that's the real story. Yeah. So, there feels like no filler here to me. And then the other thing I want to say about it is that while it clearly takes place in the Marvel universe, in the MCU, I mean, we know that, and it feels like a Marvel movie, it doesn't, there's no, you know what I mean? Like there's Shield references in the, WandaVision. Pietro shows up, Kingpin shows up in Hawkeye, there's no, at least in the first 4 episodes, I'm sure there are Easter eggs and things, but there's no like talk of Shield or talk of Sword or this character or that character, but yet it still feels Marvel. And so I really, really enjoyed that and thought that was great that they were able to sort of pull that off. And also Oscar Isaac, I think, comes into this series in a way that I don't think anyone's come into Marvel since Robert Downey Jr.
Wow.
He is a movie star, like already. Like normally Marvel makes movie stars. I mean, they made Chris Hemsworth. They made Chris Pratt. They made Tom Hiddleston. You could even argue that while Brie Larson had an Oscar when she did Captain Marvel, it made her a movie star. Yeah. Paul Rudd and Benedict Cumberbatch were already known actors, but Marvel made them movie stars. And I feel like Oscar comes in off of Dune, off of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, off of even, certainly Poe Dameron. He comes in as much of a movie star as we've seen any actor come into a Marvel series or film since Robert Downey Jr. So I think he brings all that movie star talent and charm, all the love you have for Oscar Isaac, he brings with him to Moon Knight.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And you're right. This is the most different show so far in the Disney Plus Marvel shows. And I really like also the horror element of it too. Like that elevator hallway scene with Khonshu.
Oh my God.
Scare the crap out of me. You guys, the two of you probably know my like weird phobia. Not if it's not a phobia, but I'm quite uncomfortable in an elevator, especially those old rickety, those LA ones. If you go into like a Studio City, in the valley, older apartment buildings, and they kind of rattle and it's yellow fluorescent light. Like I am, and especially ones with mirrors, I don't like them. I look at the floor until I get to the and then the door opens ever so slowly. So I felt the fear of that whole scene, and I really am liking how they're incorporating Khonshu and how it's so confusing for Stephen Grant to see it from his point of view. Like, what do you mean, Mark? What do you mean give up the control now? Why am I having all these voices in my head? And Oscar is just the perfect choice to be in this series because he not only has to deal with the more the dramatic scenes and emotional scenes of this character to explore that and the loneliness of Stephen Grant, but also the physical comedy of it when he first it's not the first, I guess it is the first time he meets Arthur, and Arthur's trying to take that scare from him and he's like, just take it. And it reminded me a little bit of Upgrade or like of Venom, because there's somebody else in control of his body, but it's Oscar Isaac doing the acting. The physical comedy in that was hilarious because he like giraffe steps, try to like step away from Arthur, and I just thought that was so funny because not many actors can make it look good in a not overdone way. So I am very excited for the audience and for us to see where this story goes. And we know that Moon Knight's connected to many Marvel characters, to Shang-Chi, to Echo, to I don't off the top of my head, that's like the only two I can think of, to Daredevil.
Werewolf by Night, because and I just want to mention, because we talked about this a few weeks ago, there were rumors, there were thoughts when the trailer came out that creature he's fighting at the end of the first episode was Werewolf by Night, and we can confirm that it is not. Werewolf by Night is not in the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight.
So with that said, absolutely loving the series. We will be talking about the show throughout, the upcoming episodes of Pop Council. But if you want like really, detailed, let's dive into the episode for an hour, make sure you check out the after show for Moon Knight. And with that said, you guys, we've gone over. This is probably the longest episode we have done for Pop Council. It's just too good. It's just too good conversation. I didn't want to stop it. So I want to thank my fellow co-hosts for taking the time for a great discussion. John Rocha, where can we find you and what you do?
Hey, you can always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. On Twitch, The Outlaw Nation, and on my channel, my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ John Rocha Says, all the stuff going on there. And my other podcast, The Top 10, The Cinephiles, and The Geek Buddies out there for you to enjoy.
And the We Crashed.
And the We Crashed after show, of course, on the Hollywood Critics Association. I don't know what day they drop them. We're recording them on Tuesdays. I don't know what day they drop them, but yeah, it's out there every week. Yeah,
they're out there in the cyberverse somewhere.
Yeah, a playlist on this channel. I'm
exactly.
sure.
There is a playlist, so just click on that. You can just watch all the way through, no interruptions.
That's right.
Jami, where can everybody find you and your work?
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter. You can find me at Philbrick, at my name, Jami Philbrick on Facebook. And check out moviephone.com for showtimes, reviews, news, interviews, and all that good stuff.
And as for me, you can find me on the socials just at my name, Wendy Lee Zaney, on YouTube under the Movie Couple channel, where we talk about movie reviews, trailer reactions, and more. And watch me struggle as I edit all these reactions. And with that, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you tune back in next episode because we will have another great guest and a bunch of awesome topics. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day. Bye.